Hey guys, welcome to my Ocean One channel. I just want to do a video going over why I think Fisker is worth investing in, the risk associated with that investment, and do you think this is for you, and can you stomach it? So before we get in too deep, let's go over our YouTube disclaimers. I just always use those when I'm doing these types of videos to make sure I keep myself out of YouTube jail. None of my statements or content constitute professional advice. Viewers that follow any advice, instructions, or suggestions do so at their own risk. So that's the way it should be, and that's the way that it has to be. You are responsible for your own actions. But I am going to go over, what I think are the negatives, and I'm going to start with the negatives. And then I'm going to go over what I think are the positives, and I'll give my final thoughts on how I think this most likely plays out. So let's just jump right into this. What challenges does Fisker currently have? And I think Fisker has several near-term challenges, and they're all worth looking at, and they're all worth discussing, and I probably won't hit on every single one, but I'm going to hit on the ones that I think are the most important. And I think right off the bat, I think we have to look at cash. Cash is probably pretty tight, and that is a direct result of simply having a backlog of our inventory where we botched the delivery. There's no way around that. We just botched it. So that's why we're pivoting to dealers in the first place. Fisker did not do a good job with their delivery, so we have a lot of Oceans and parts that are, like batteries, that are paid for, that are on the balance sheet. And so we have to get those off the book. So it's a matter of how quickly are we getting those prepaid expenses off of our balance sheet. And that ties directly into the ongoing concern that we had in the conference call. And the ongoing concern revolves around, simply not having enough money for a full year of operations without, potentially raising cash. And again, I think that goes right back to, how well are we executing? How well are we selling the Oceans, delivering the Oceans? How quickly are dealers signing up? Things like that. Now, another thing that is not working in our favor currently is we're not getting full value of each sale of the Fisker Ocean. And that's something that kind of hit me out of the blue in the last conference call. I was not really expecting that. And what's happening is Fisker is leaving a certain percentage, and that's unclear to me what that percentage is, but we could ballpark a number, but I'm not going to do that. They're leaving a percentage of the sale off of revenue. So what happens is when we make a sale, let's just pick a number, okay? We sell an Ocean for $60,000. Maybe $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 of that is being left off of the sale because part of our ADAS, our Advanced Driver Assistance System, is not active. So basically Fisker is saying, you are not getting what you paid for yet, so we can't recognize that as revenue yet. So that is a current concern, and that's affecting revenue as far as what we can show as revenue. And then another thing that's probably really hurting us at the moment is some customers may simply not follow through with an Ocean purchase because they maybe they've heard about the company, maybe they look at the share price and they're like, Fisker's 37 cents. Do I really want to buy a car from a company that is 37 cents? So I think, from a customer's point of view, that's a real concern that Fisker may actually go bankrupt. Now, personally, I've never believed Fisker will go bankrupt, but if you're outside looking in and you just look at the share price, you might think, wow, man, Fisker is toast. They're done. And dealers may do the same thing. Dealers may look at Fisker and say, man, you guys are 40 cents. You have a $240 million market cap. You are not going to survive. and they simply don't sign up like Fisker is expecting. So I think those are the real concerns that need to be addressed. And as any investor, I think you would be wise to consider those. But now I think Fisker can overcome those. So I'm going to spend the rest of the video discussing what I think Fisker can do, will do, and should do to overcome those. Now, my personal opinion is just this. I think the first quarter of 2024 is probably going to be our toughest quarter going forward. And you might be thinking, well, why is that? I think that's simply because we're transitioning to the dealers, and I think that's going to be slow. So I think that will most likely affect sales. And our first quarter has the potential to simply be our slowest quarter that we have. And then after the first quarter, we start moving into working with the dealers more closely. We have more dealers online, and that works better for us. So potentially the first quarter of 2024 is probably our toughest quarter as far as Ocean's sales. We have a low share price and we're transitioning to dealers, so we have those two things on our backs. So what does Fisker need to do to fix this? So let's handle each one of these one at a time. The first thing that I brought up was the cash situation. So how do we address the cash situation? Well, first and foremost, we sell a lot of Oceans. Nothing's going to work better than us moving Oceans and putting money back into the company, and also removing all of the prepaid, materials, Oceans that go with that, so we can remove that off the books and be putting new monies into the company from the sale of Oceans. My concern is that the first quarter may be rather slow, though, as we switch to the dealer network. So I hope Fisker is all over that, trying to push sales. So the second thing would be, we sign up a lot of dealers. In the last conference call, they said that we had signed up 17 dealers. Now, it's a little confusing to think, a dealer is one location, but a dealer has the potential to be 5 locations or 10 locations. So it's just a matter of how Fisker and the dealers are agreeing, where they are regionally, who they're going to compete with, who they're going to compete against, who they're not going to compete against, just little simple things like that. Third thing that Fisker could do is raise money. Now, raising money with our share price so low is a catch-22, because if you're raising money at such a low share price, you're diluting the daylights out of shareholders. So, okay, it is what it is. But these are things that, we could address. Now, hopefully, Fisker is raising money at a potentially much higher share price. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes, how we potentially raise the share price. And the fourth thing that we can do to fix this is we make it to May. Now, in May, you might be thinking, well, what's May? Well, how's May going to help us? Well, in May, we're supposed to have our 3.0 update, if that's what they are still calling it. And that's the update that I look forward to the most, because that's going to activate the ADAS system. So once those get activated, all of that deferred revenue will start getting recognized. And then when we sell an Ocean going forward, after the ADAS system gets recognized, we start getting full value for each Ocean that we sell. So those are the 4 things that we could do to, address the situation. So just to recap, we sell a lot of Oceans. We sign up a lot of dealers. We potentially raise money. Hopefully we're raising money at a later date at a much higher share price, assuming that we need to do that. And, there's different ways to raise money. We could speculate on how they do that. But if we're selling a lot of Oceans, just raising money could be, eliminated. And then make it till May so we get the ADAS features fixed. Now, another way that we could potentially raise money, and this is the one I said I would come back to in a minute, is Nissan. Now, we got the Reuters news that potentially, and I have to say potentially, but it seems like it's 99.9999% accurate. Nissan and Fisker are working very tightly on an agreement, and that agreement might be much closer than any of us think. It could also be a lot longer than any of us think. Maybe they have trouble, working out some details or something like that. But instead of diluting the stock, Fisker could, get a huge cash infusion from Nissan by using the Alaska platform, which is almost exclusively based off the Ocean platform, the FI-29 platform. So if that goes through, we may have an extra, $400 million on our hands or more, depending on how it's structured. And how much of that goes for, general corporate business purposes, we'll have to wait and see on the details, assuming that it happens. So just the simple fact that Nissan may come in and give us a very large cash infusion, that could work wonders for the stock, because you get the full benefit here. You get the benefit of a major original equipment manufacturer, an OEM, coming in and saying, hey, we like what we see. You have a lot to offer. Let's team up. And that by itself, especially with a cash infusion, would pretty much eliminate any fear of bankruptcy. And that could potentially rally the stock tremendously. It could also increase sales. It could also give dealerships more confidence to join. And one thing that I think it would do in a major way, and this is just speculation on my part, is I think it would encourage Nissan dealers to jump on board nationwide. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to apply and they're all going to jump on, but I do think that makes very good synergies in marketing sense from my perspective. So, maybe that's something that Fisker pushes if that deal comes through. So that could potentially be a game changer and solve, some of our issues. I think it would give tremendous confidence going forward for Fisker. So what else do we need to consider here? I think another thing that we need to consider is what Fisker has suffered from in the past. And I think the single biggest thing that Fisker has suffered from is name recognition. Fisker is simply not known. Go out, ask a friend, and say, hey, you thinking about buying a Fisker Ocean? And they'll probably look at you like you have lobsters crawling out of your ears, unless they follow this industry very closely, because most people, generally speaking, have no idea what a Fisker is. So I think by switching to the dealer network, which I was originally against, but hey, we need to do what we need to do, and there are certain reasons why I like that, and mostly because of the no haggle pricing. But if Nissan comes in and invests in the company, and we are doing well with the dealer network, I think that's a game changer as far as brand recognition, because people are going to simply be driving, in their normal lives, and they're going to be passing dealerships, and they're going to see a Fisker sign. And I think that is brand recognition by itself. They're going to pull in and they're going to compare that to everything else. And I drive an Ocean and know how good it is. So I think once people get their butts in the seats of Oceans, I think you're going to start seeing a huge demand. But, again, we have to get through this pivot. We have to get through this transition phase. So I think most of this is worked out by the second half of the year. So, what does that do? That gives us the first quarter of this year to sign up dealerships. That gives us the second quarter to start dropping off a bunch of Oceans. And that gives us May to start being able to recognize our deferred revenue. So I think this company is really going to get revving up, if you will, even though we don't have an internal combustion engine. I think this company is going to be revving up by the third and the fourth quarter of the year. So, unless you are convinced that Fisker is going bankrupt, now's the time to invest. Now is the time to take advantage of this. So that's, you have to weigh the pros and cons here. Can you sleep well at night investing in Fisker? Now, I can't, because I believe that nobody wants Fisker to succeed more than Henrik and Geeta. They have their whole reputation tied up in this. They have their whole life savings tied up in this. They have a lot more riding on this than we do. Now, I know it gets personal because I'm down as much as anybody. I've never sold a share. I'm down 95% on my investment. But I look at this company and I look at how good the product is, and I ask myself, do they survive? Do they thrive? Or do they die? I don't think they're going to die. And I do think they're going to survive. And if they survive the next 6 months, then I think they're going to thrive. So, I'm making an investment now based on that. And of course, I'm willing to accept that risk. Another thing that it's incredibly clear to me that Fisker is focusing on is new management positions. And I'm going to do a slide where I go over the management positions and the recent new hires. And one thing that I would personally really like to see is a dedicated chief operating officer, a dedicated COO. And I have speculated on that in the past, and it's still unclear to me if that's going to happen or not going to happen. But that's something that I would welcome with open arms. I think Fisker is growing so much now that we need a dedicated chief operating officer. That is something that I would advocate for all day, every day, and break up the roles for Geeta so she is not both roles. Currently, she is the chief financial officer and she is the chief operating officer. And we just brought in Angel Salinas to help on the financial side. So let's bring in somebody else to help on the operations side, and let's run a tight ship. But let's look at the 3 recent hires now. Let's look at new management hires. On January the 8th of 2024, Angel Salinas is now our Chief Accounting Officer. Angel has 28 years of public company accounting experience. This tells me that Fisker is taking accounting front and center at Fisker. And then on January the 16th, Fisker brings in Eric Goldstein, Head of Investor Relations. And Goldstein has over 25 years of experience in the investment world, most recently as Vice President of Investor Relations at SES AI Corporation. Prior to that role, he served as Vice President of Investor Relations at Magna International, and he previously worked for several investment banks and large hedge funds. So you can see that Eric is a great hire and a great fit for Fisker, and especially having a previous Magna role. And then on March the 6th, we have Saidullah Kolasani joins Fisker as Senior Vice President. And man, he's got a long title here: Enterprise, Digital Operations, and Transformations. He will oversee technology, infrastructure, cybersecurity, digital platforms, enterprise systems, architecture, data, and operations, and report to Chairman and CEO Henrik Fisker. And I'm not going to pretend that I understand everything that this guy is doing, but it does tell me that Fisker is taking management positions very seriously. Okay, now let's do a segment on the share price and why I personally think that the share price has just been absolutely destroyed, far beyond what it should have been. And that goes back to the notes. There's just no getting around it. When we missed our 10Q, that opened up the door for the note holder to just dilute the daylights out of us. And that's exactly what they've been doing. It seems to me that they've simply been flooding the market with Fisker shares. And if you think about this, it makes a lot of sense. We were roughly, upper 300 million shares just a quarter ago, okay? And now we're upwards of almost 600 million shares. So we've not quite doubled our shares, but we have almost doubled our outstanding shares in basically 1/4. So if you think about that, that has put tremendous pressure on the downside of the share price. So what can we do to fix that? Once we file the 10K, should, and I want to stress should, I think that that will put a stop on the selling pressure. And the selling pressure from the way that I see this, the selling pressure just comes from, flooding the market with shares. There's, millions of shares being added to the float. And so the market has to deal with those. And if there's not enough buying to deal with those shares that are coming on the market, of course the share price goes down. It's simple supply and demand. So I think as far as the share price, we should be put on an upward trajectory once we file the 10K. Now, Fisker has said that they needed an extension to file the 10K, and we are already in that extension. Okay, let's be clear on that. But Fisker has said on or by or potentially before March the 15th, they will file the 10K. So I think once that 10K gets filed, that should provide some stability in the share price, and hopefully we can see the share price move up from there. So my final thoughts. Will Fisker die, survive, or thrive? I think Fisker is pretty much in survival mode at the moment. I think once we get through the next 2 quarters, including the quarter that we are in, I think by the 3rd and the 4th quarter of this year, we start to thrive. I think Fisker's making the right changes. When you look at the management changes that they're making, moving to the dealer network, we just have to give that time to work out. And then you start looking at the potential of a very large automaker coming in. I think we have all the ingredients of, being, say, Carvana 2.0. Because if you just go back, last year, everybody was writing Carvana off. All the analysts were saying, it's not going to survive. It's going into bankruptcy. And then you look at what they've done in, say, the past, 9 months, 12 months. It's been a dramatic turnaround. I think Fisker is very much set up to be the next, Carvana 2.0 as far as a very large move in the share price. Now, there's no guarantees here. If the demand for the Fisker Ocean wanes, if Fisker doesn't execute, or we just make a stupid mistake, Fisker it's going to be tough for them. They may not survive. There is a real chance of bankruptcy here. But I want to say, that with a very strong but. You can never eliminate bankruptcy, okay? But I drive the Ocean. It drives fantastically well. People, once they get their butts in the seats of these things, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of Oceans on the road, because yes, it is just that good. So if Fisker runs a tight ship, dealers sign up, they start moving the Oceans, Nissan comes in, gives us a cash infusion. I think once the market sees that bankruptcy is off the table. Now, how quickly does that happen? I don't know. I think Nissan by itself could probably pretty much remove bankruptcy by itself, if that includes a cash infusion. So if that happens, I think Nissan by itself could pretty much remove that. So for me, it's simply a matter of risk versus reward. At this point, I think the risks are worth it. I think the rewards are worth the risk, and I'm willing to take that risk. If it pays off, that's great. If it doesn't, that's very painful, but life will go on, and I'll move on. Hope you found this beneficial. Hope you like my videos, and I hope you like my content. And if you do, just like and subscribe. Always like the videos, because that definitely helps the YouTube algorithms. It helps other people find the information that I am providing. So if you do have any suggestions that you would like for me to do, just make that request and I will definitely consider it. So will you invest in Fisker, and will you take that risk? You'll have to decide. But I'll be adding some more shares along the way. Until next time, thanks for watching.